Greetings, Blue friends. Irving is the #4 pick in America. Can this guy land at Kentucky? Will Pope be convincing enough to bring the recruit? Let's take a look at the analysis. But first, subscribe to the channel and keep receiving more news from the Wildcats. The last few days have been a mix of disappointment and hope. Although recent losses have shaken the fans' confidence, there's something in the air that suggests this week could be decisive for the team's future. With Pope, the Kentucky Wildcats have faced challenges in the competitive recruiting market, but the expectation is now focused on a name that could change the game: Josh Irving. Irving, the center ranked 4th at his position in the United States, is a player who combines size, skill, and versatility, traits that make him an extremely valuable asset for any elite program. Not only is he an intimidating paint protector, but he also possesses a soft touch around the basket and the ability to run quickly in transition. These qualities make him a natural fit for the dynamic style Kentucky has always strived to implement in its teams. Bringing Irving to Lexington will be no easy task. The current outlook indicates that Texas A&M leads the race for the young center, with Louisville virtually out of the running. Even so, in the world of college recruiting, nothing is guaranteed until the official signing, and it is in this uncertainty that BBN's hope lies. If Mark Pope can turn the tables and convince Irving to don the blue and white uniform, it would represent more than just a win in the 2026 cycle. It would be a sign that Kentucky is working hard. The last 24 hours have been particularly difficult for Kentucky fans. Bryson Howard, one of the most promising prospects in the 2026 class, announced his commitment to Duke, while Anthony Thompson, the 8th-ranked player in the nation, opted for Ohio State. We'll get to that in a moment. Both choices are significant blows for a program accustomed to dominating recruiting year after year. However, these setbacks shouldn't be seen as signs of weakness, but rather as reminders of how competitive the current landscape is. Kentucky isn't alone in this struggle. Programs like Duke, Ohio State, and Texas A&M are stepping up their game, making each achievement even more valuable. For Mark Pope, the pressure increases with each announcement of a recruit opting for another destination. But at the same time, there's something admirable about the way he and his team continue to fight, even in the face of adversity. The coach has demonstrated resilience and persistence, qualities that will be crucial to rebuilding the prestige of Kentucky basketball. His recruiting philosophy seems to be focused on finding pieces that fit not only the team, but also the culture and identity of the program. If Irving chooses Kentucky, it will validate not only Pope's vision, but also the trust placed in him by the administration and fans. Irving's decision is expected in the coming days, and all eyes will be on Pasadena, California, where the young athlete is pondering his future. Should he decide on Kentucky, it will usher in a new wave of optimism. Furthermore, the impact of such a choice could influence other elite recruits, such as Tyron Stokes and Darren Rippey Jr., who remain priority targets for the program. Stokes, considered the best overall player in the class, and Rippey, the most coveted point guard, had the potential to completely transform the team's dynamic. A deal with Irving could serve as a catalyst to attract these players, creating a roster capable of competing on college basketball's biggest stages. For Mark Pope, the timing is crucial. Landing Josh Irving will be more than just a successful recruitment. It will be a symbolic milestone, a declaration that Kentucky remains an irresistible destination for the nation's best talent. Regardless of the final outcome, Pope's work deserves recognition. He's facing one of the most challenging seasons in college recruiting, yet he continues to find ways to keep Kentucky competitive. If Irving decides to join the program, it will be the beginning of a new era, one that promises to restore the pride and glory that have always defined Kentucky basketball. In recent days, Kentucky has seen 2 highly coveted targets opt for other destinations, but hope remains alive for the Wildcats. Mark Pope, with the program, is looking to rebuild its identity and attract talent who can restore the shine to the blue and white basketball scene. Despite recent losses, there are signs that the tide may be about to turn. Bryson Howard, a five-star guard and one of the jewels of the 2026 class, announced his commitment to Duke on Tuesday. The young prodigy from Texas chose Duke in a tight race that also included Kentucky and North Carolina. Ranked as the 12th best player in the country by 247 sports, Howard drew attention for his versatility and ability to impact the game on both defense and offense. He visited Lexington in early October, but was ultimately seduced by the prestige and forward-thinking approach presented by Coach John Shire at Duke. For Kentucky, losing Howard is a significant but not fatal blow. After all, recruiting is a long and twisty process, and the program has faced similar setbacks in the past. On the other hand, Anthony Thompson, one of the most promising players in the 2026 class, has decided to commit to Ohio State. He grew up in Lebanon, Ohio, and made his choice official through an Instagram post. Thompson, ranked as the 7th best recruit nationally, will be the first top 10 player to join the Buckeyes in the last 16 years. His decision marks the beginning of a new era under Coach Jake Diebler, who has worked tirelessly to revitalize the program. Kentucky was among the final 6 universities in the running for Thompson, along with Texas, Indiana, Michigan, North Carolina, and Ohio State. However, the Buckeyes' local connection and the project they presented ultimately weighed in Columbus's favor. Thompson visited Lexington in late September, but the final choice demonstrates that sometimes emotional and regional factors can outweigh the appeal of even a historic giant like Kentucky. These 2 consecutive losses are painful for BBN, but they also serve as reminders of how competitive the current market is. Programs like Duke and Ohio State are ramping up their recruiting efforts to unprecedented levels, making each acquisition even more valuable. For Mark Pope, these setbacks are not just challenges, but opportunities to adjust his approach and continue fighting for key players. And it is into this context that Josh Irving, the 4-star center whose decision is about to be announced, emerges. Irving, ranked as the 4th best center in the 2026 class, is a key asset for any team seeking dominance in the paint. He combines physical strength, technical skill, and playmaking intelligence, traits that make him a natural fit for Kentucky's dynamic style. The young player has narrowed his final list to 3 universities: Kentucky, Louisville, and Texas A&M. While Louisville appears to be out of the running, the battle between the Wildcats and the Aggies is fierce. Rumors suggest Texas A&M has a slight edge, but as always, recruiting is unpredictable until the official announcement. Irving is the type of player who could not only strengthen Kentucky's roster, but also propel the program to new heights in the 2026 cycle. The importance of landing Irving goes beyond his contribution on the board. A positive commitment could serve as a catalyst for attracting other elite recruits, such as Tyron Stokes and Darren Rippey Jr., who remain priorities for the program. Stokes, considered the best overall player in the class, and Rippey, the most coveted point guard, have the potential to completely transform the team's dynamic. A deal with Irving could signal that Kentucky remains an irresistible destination, even amidst a period of transition. For Mark Pope, the timing is crucial. He is facing one of the most challenging times in college recruiting, but his persistence and resilience deserve recognition. Every official visit, every conversation with players and their families, and every effort to sell Kentucky's vision demonstrates Pope's commitment to restoring the program's prestige. While the road is arduous, small victories can have big repercussions. Landing Josh Irving will be more than just a successful recruitment. It would be a major coup for Pope in particular. Following the promising update on Jalen Lowe's physical condition, the junior point guard, whose injury in the blue-white game caused silence among the passionate Wildcats fans, now appears to be on a much calmer and more positive path than initially imagined. Confirmation that the MRI revealed no serious damage was news that relieved not only the fans, but also the entire program. Lowe's injury brought to light that peculiar moment everyone involved in college basketball knows well. The shock, followed by speculation, and finally the wait for a concrete diagnosis. When he dislocated his right shoulder during the event, the situation was worrying, to say the least. Shoulder dislocations are always complicated, with possibilities ranging from weeks of recovery to surgical interventions that can compromise an entire season. However, given the absence of ligament injuries, the prognosis began to take on a more hopeful tone, and Pope's words during the UK Star of the Year luncheon in Louisville were a true balm for the team and fans. "Jalland is doing great," Pope said, conveying genuine satisfaction with the player's progress over the past 48 hours. "He's improved a lot. He's very, very positive." This statement, while cautious, reflects the coach's level-headed approach. Pope knows that a premature return can result in major complications, so his approach is cautious but also realistic. He recognizes Lowe's competitive spirit, a player who, even in the midst of a delicate situation, demonstrates a resilient mindset. This kind of attitude is precisely what makes the young point guard so valuable within Pope's playing philosophy. While the coach has made it clear that there is no rush to get Lowe back on the court immediately, that doesn't mean his return is far off. Comments like, "We'll see how this plays out," indicate that Pope is monitoring every detail of the recovery process without compromising his athlete's health. It's reasonable to assume that the upcoming exhibition games, including the matchup against Purdue, will likely not feature Lowe. However, the idea of seeing him in action as early November, whether against Nichols or Valparaiso, or even the tight matchup against Louisville on November 11th, seems plausible. After all, Pope himself emphasized that a November return seems like a safe bet. This news comes at a crucial time for Kentucky basketball, which is looking to cement its position as one of the dominant forces in the NCAA this season. Jalland Lowe's presence will be crucial to the team's development, especially considering his role as a versatile and creative offensive playmaker. His ability to create opportunities for both himself and his teammates is something Pope deeply values, and his return to roster is expected to bring a new level of dynamism to the coach's system. Furthermore, Lowe's case serves as an example of the kind of culture Pope is building in Lexington. It's an environment where care for athletes goes beyond the physical. There's a genuine concern for their overall well-being, combined with long-term strategic vision. It's no coincidence that the coach repeatedly mentioned the term tough competitor when referring to Lowe. This reflects not only the player's individual talent, but also the collective mentality Pope wants to instill in the entire group. The upcoming games will serve as important tests to fine-tune the team's chemistry and assess the depth of the roster, even without the point guard's temporary presence. And when he finally steps onto the court again, he will be greeted with enthusiastic applause, not only for his technical skill, but also for symbolizing the resilience and care that define this moment in the program. Mark Pope, with his thoughtful leadership and clear vision, continues to show that he's on the right track to lead the Wildcats to great achievements. Share your thoughts.